In the Simpsons special The Past and the Furious, we see an episode that discovers the past of Mr. Burns, a famously evil business owner of The Simpsons who rarely sees the humanity in other people. However, in this episode where Lisa seemingly has the memories of her great-grandmother, Edith, it seems that Mr. Burns had at one point a sense of morality towards other people, as he once had a love for singing and taking care of plants. However, after Lisa sneezes, she returns back to present day, where everything is a wasteland and plants can't grow under the tyranny of Mr. Burns. The way Lisa goes back in time is seemingly through buzzers that is given to her by her therapist, where she then not only shares memories with Edith but also can affect the future by what she does in the past as her great-grandmother. We see her initially performing at a jazz club where she learns the singer is Mr. Burns, which considering modern day surprises her. When she then learns of the name of the club, she performs at the Little Moose Club. She's surprised to realize that the dream she had was in fact more than that, as she learns that this in fact was a real place at one point of Springfield's history. Desperate to find a way to change the present day, she then returns to the past where she learns of the mini moose, a creature that Springfield once had, then went extinct. She starts a performance for the people of Springfield in order to protect and raise awareness of the mini moose, and feeling satisfied, she returns back to modern day with a sneeze. This, however, only makes the extinction of the mini moose come faster, and the modern day has become more of a mess. While desperate, she eventually gets her clickers taken away by her parents and only retrieves it back once Bart steals his own items back, then gives her back the clickers. However, after returning, the mini moose destroy young Mr. Burns' flower collection, making him more corrupted as a turning point for him. Lisa goes back to the present and tries to fix it by reminding Mr. Burns of his past self and find the good still left from when he was young, which of course doesn't work, and to make matters worse, Mr. Burns learns of the clickers because Lisa left her diary on his desk. He then uses them and goes into the past with Lisa to turn into a younger version of himself. After a mental battle with himself, modern-day Mr. Burns wins and successfully turns younger him fully evil and returns to modern day to destroy the clickers. However, the old Mr. Burns still has a little good left into him, so he leaves two objects behind for Lisa to find in the future: a priceless lamp which is destroyed and some seemingly cheap baseball cards that turn out to be worth a fortune. Finally, Lisa assumingly sells the cards and grows a garden and creates a slightly more colorful world for the citizens of Springfield. The Simpsons is a show about a working-class family that tries to find their way across modern life and the challenges that get thrown at them. One of the most popular episodes is Season's 8 episode 23's episode, Homer's Enemy. The Simpsons initially was a way more controversial show than we see it now. What is now considered pretty tame used was more of a hot topic in the 80s and 90s. Homer's Enemy is an episode which challenges the ideals of the viewers, and this video will say why. Something that used to be true in past America was the idea that if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything. It's something that usually relates to the business world and the means of making money, that eventually your hard work will pay off. Oftentimes we are taught this at birth, and we continue this idea into adulthood. While this may have been true at one point, this is seeming less and less true as the economic part of our society seems to worsen for those who need help, and are just told to work harder instead of being given what older generations call handouts. This is something seen by the antagonist of the episode, Frank Grimes, a self-made man who never really had an easy life and had to put in hard work to get where he is today. While he is someone who is definitely intelligent and hardworking, it seems that his antithesis, Homer Simpson, is neither of those things. Frank Grimes is someone who the hard work pays off. Mentally, people can side with and agree with his ideals and ideologies when he receives hope of being given a lucrative position by Mr. Burns, but this reality is quickly shattered as it's played off as nothing more than a fleeting emotion when he immediately turns around and says to put him somewhere in the facility. He's immediately met with Homer, Lenny, and Carl. While Carl and Lenny are people who seem to have at the very least worked their way to the positions that they are now. However, Homer is a completely different story, as he just came the day that it opened and got hired to a position that Frank Grimes worked his entire life to get to. As the episode goes on, we see Homer be more and more lazy and unaware to what he's doing to people around him, with Frank Grimes getting more and more mad at Homer as the episode continues. With all of that, Homer proceeds to get more and more aware of the emotions of Grimes and picked up that he may not like Homer. Homer starts to emotionally feel worse and worse until the point where Marge needs to have a conversation with him to try and look better around Grimes, which is just met with more revenge and retaliation from him. Grimes, in a spot of emotional spite, tries to make the people around him realize how dumb Homer truly is by making him participate in a children's contest. When this fails, Grimes gets more pissed until he goes on a manic episode, and this leads to his eventual death, which, when his funeral happens, it's met by laughter at Homer's unawareness while his grave is lowered. As he lived is how he died, a very difficult life met with an end that was harsh. The way he lives and the way he dies challenges the viewer to understand that hard work is not the answer to the top. There will always be people who stumble their way to the top, and while Grimes may not live the easiest life, it's ultimately his anger and jealousy that gets him killed, these negative emotions that, while understandable at the core, are directed to the wrong person. Homer didn't create the system that got him to the position that he is currently at, and being pissed at other individuals who may have achieved through less traditional hardworking means isn't the answer, as it creates hatred between individuals and doesn't change anything. Homer lives his life through a way that makes people want to defend him and his actions. His loving attitude and genuine want to make friends makes people who enjoy his company and creates a genuine bond. With that, this video comes to a close, and make sure you subscribe, leave a like and comment. I don't need to give a recap of what The Simpsons is. You and I already both know what the show is about and its characters like Homer and Bart Simpson. But in this video I will talk about The Simpsons episode about deception and the people you believe in, and how found family can be better than the family you were born into. An episode that I think I've heard mixed reception to is Season 9 Episode 2, The Principal and the Pauper, an episode that has a 6.9 on IMDb. This episode was released September 28, 1997, and sees the Skinner that we have grown accustomed to turn out to be an imposter. This episode opens with the preparation for the 20th anniversary of Skinner being the school principal, where they are constantly hiding the celebration away from him to keep it a surprise. As the episode continues, we see Skinner's mother drive him to the school while acting passive-aggressive in order to sway him away from anything that could be happening. As they drive up to the school in her car, the surprise is revealed to him when he enters the building, where he is met by the school and townsfolk to celebrate his 20th anniversary. This is met with Lisa Simpson and Ralph Wiggum presenting an oral report about their past in the military and who they are as a person in a positive light to announce to everyone in the audience. After this is when we initially see someone driving by the school in a taxi, where he then asks the driver to pull over. As Skinner walks on the stage, he's met with applause and laughter and even a prank from Bart Simpson done simply to celebrate the moment rather than to humiliate publicly. This is shown by the fact we can see Skinner laughing after getting pranked. However, the mood changes when someone in the audience states that he is not Skinner. Skinner is met with a sudden shock as he hears this in the audience, with confusion, where another person claims to be Skinner in front of everyone. This makes the Skinner's mother faint and fall to the ground, and she begins to realize what's happening. Chalmers initially doesn't believe it at first and tells him to be removed until the Skinner we know confirms that he's telling the truth. Both of the Skinners tell their stories to the townsfolk, where the actual Skinner states that he was a prisoner of war and was sold to the Chinese while being a prisoner of war. After this, the Skinner we know was revealed to be someone who was arrested and thrown into a war against his better knowledge. After they met, the Skinner we know believed he was dead after he was missing and presumed dead, eventually taking the real Skinner's life until he had eventually returned so that the people around him didn't have to deal with the grief of his loss. His mother refuses to acknowledge either of them because she sees the real Skinner as a stranger and the Skinner we know as an imposter named Armin. As the episode continues, the people start to treat Armin, the Skinner we know, worse and more worse. Because everyone feels deceived for what he did and for how long he did it, until he eventually steps down as principal and lets the real Skinner take his position as the principal. Furthermore, he leaves his old life behind as he starts to feel unwelcome for what he's done. As the mayor congratulates Skinner, Lisa brings up the fact, despite how he deceived the town, that he brought himself up and earned the respect of the entire town, clearly showing that she feels bad that Armin felt forced out of Springfield. However, as Skinner takes his position in Springfield back, it's clear that he was separated from society to the point that he cannot properly communicate to the town in a way that doesn't seem to connect to not only modern-day society but also in a way that Armin used to. The camera eventually goes back to Armin, showing us how much he's suffering being out of the time, having to feel isolated after getting kicked out. Some of the townspeople eventually realize that they miss Armin for who he was rather than what he was, so they go on a trip to find him. They eventually find him and try to tell him that they miss him for him. While initially met with refusal, he eventually cracks and comes back to Springfield, and as they want him to take back his position as the principal of Springfield, they kick Skinner in favor of Armin, since they enjoy Armin more. This episode discusses the idea of found family. This is done in a literal sense for Skinner's mom. As time goes on, we tend to spend more time with the people who care about us and vice versa than the people we are forced to be around. While it's important to care for your family, this is implying that they care about you back, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be treated right by people who are supposed to care about you. This is seen with Armin and Skinner because Armin earned their respect rather than forced their ways into their lives after so long. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and leave a like and comment. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.